Water, okay.
Uh,
From,
no, stop.
sorry. Talking now, does that count?
Is it delayed on YouTube?
A little bit, but we weren't talking.
But not that much?
We're good.
Are you all ready? All right, everyone, we'll get started. All right, welcome to the July 11th, 2024 BAR small meeting. My name is Lindsay Van Slambrook. I'll be your chairwoman this evening. Fellow board members present today are Bill Turner, Julia Martin, Bill Huey, and Fillmore Wilson. City staff present are Frankie Pinto, BARS Administrator, and Travis Golly, Senior Preservation Planner. The order of tonight's meeting will be as follows. For each application, we'll start with an introduction and overview of the project from city staff for the benefit of the board and the public. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation. The applicant will have 10 minutes to present the project, and anyone speaking with the applicant, such as the property owner, developers, designers, consultants, should speak during the applicant's 10-minute period versus during public comment. By ordinance, the board can ask questions of the applicant at any time. By custom, we do so on the heels of the applicant's presentation. This will be followed by public comment. Written public comment that was timely submitted has been provided to board members in advance of the meeting for review. If you are speaking as a member of the public, please approach the podium, state your name first and last for the record. Public comment will be followed by city staff comments and recommendations. And once we've heard from the public and city staff, the applicant will have a 5-minute period of time to clarify or respond to anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments and recommendations. Following that, we'll go into board discussion and a vote on each project. Results will be posted online at the city's website. The following items have been withdrawn or deferred this evening. Agenda item B7, 213 Ashley Avenue. And please limit your comments to architecture only. Please understand the purview of this board is architecture. So concerns related to livability, zoning, stormwater, anything like that is not within the purview of this board and cannot be voiced here. And please remember to turn off your cell phones. All right, we'll get started. Agenda item A1, review of minutes from the June 27th, 2024 meeting. I'd like to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the motion passes. Agenda item B1, 117 Broad Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
117 Broad Street is a category 3 crease 1852 in the Old Historic District. We're requesting conceptual approval for renovations to existing kitchen house and new 2-story carriage house. This is the property's location at the corner of Broad and Orange Street. Existing site photos. Some context of Broad Street. Architecture inventory from 1973. And sandboard map showing the history of the property. Now I will turn it over to the applicant.
Great, thank you.
So Linz, I've been given this clock to be helpful
Oh,
with timing,
excellent.
so
Yeah.
we're gonna try to use it so
Okay.
that everyone, so
Oh, good, okay.
a guinea pig.
All right, thanks. I timed myself today. I'm at 14 minutes. I tried to trim, so I'm gonna try and work on it. Glenn's gonna say a thing or two. 4:34, is that the start time officially?
That is, and if you really need additional time,
We'll work.
I'll decide.
My name is Simmons Young, here on behalf of the owners of 117 Broad Street, who are here with me tonight. We're excited to be here as a further extension and development as we're turning this hotel back to its original historic use as a house. This is the Orange Street aerial. So designing the structure for the property, this additional one we're looking at tonight, we looked at other urban estate houses to study what kind of outbuilding conditions exist, and what's appropriate for the context. This is the Daniel Ravenel house and the view of the long 2-story carriage house. And I'm going to move quickly through these. We can come back if we want to for reference. This is the Robert Pringle house, another long 2-story carriage house. The Hayward Washington house, one I quote a lot about this project because Hayward and Rutledge were buddies, and the house layout is pretty similar. It's two outbuildings here. Miles Bruton House. Similarly, this one has a couple of outbuildings, 2 stories. The Aiken Red House, 2 significant 2-story outbuildings, a carriage house and a kitchen house with enslaved quarters above. The Bradford Oree House on Meeting and Trad, it's a carriage house, was subdivided. It's to the right of the main house and was where Judge Wade is swearing lived for a while. The William Gibbs House, it's another huge garden, very similar design to the Rutledge House, with 2 long 2-story structures that extend on the west side of the property. And these are images that the client gave us as inspiration images, Fenwick Hall, and then another downtown property, carriage house. So we are trying to design something with in keeping with the property. This is an overview of the entire building, and it shows the spatial relationship of the structures on the property. We believe that this is the best layout given the restrictions of the lot. It preserves the open space for a garden that a house like this would have had. And it preserves the views of the house from Orange Street and the majority of the view of the original kitchen structure. And it's placed far back from the public right away on Broad. Various views down the driveway within the property. And within the property showing the kitchen house. On the bottom on the left, you can see there's a non-original stair. You can see there's bottom in the middle, non-original portion of the structure that's been added on with wood siding and a brick veneer with that window in it. That will be is proposed to be altered. And then views from Orange Street on the right-hand side. These are Sanborn maps. We can come back to them for reference if you like. The brick is proposed to be restored to have the paint removed. We received that approval at the last 17 Orange Street submission. On the site plan, one important piece of this, previously we've always had to come here with 117 Broad and 17 Orange separately because there are 2 separate parcels that the owner purchased. In June of this year, the owner, because of some of the feedback from the neighbors, abandoned the property line so that there would not need to be driveway access through Orange Street and that all access could come from Broad Street. So it is now one single property that's a big part of this application. I'm going to ask Glenn to go through this, but I do want to just point out vehicular circulation is on the bottom of this plan and garden is on the top of the plan closer to Orange Street. This is the existing and demo layout for the kitchen house. So non-original parts of it are being demolished, meaning that stair in the back. And you'll see on the roof plan that the non-original screen porch is also being demoed, supposed to be demoed. We want to bring a stair inboard as seen on the left-hand side so that the kitchen house no longer functions as 2 hotel suites with individual kitchens, but functions as one single house. Then the garage is on the right-hand side here, the garage level of the other outbuilding, along with the stairs. And then this is the 2nd floor storage and game room with a bathroom for the maintenance crews and landscape crews that are associated with property like this. The upper right-hand side is the demo plan of the kitchen house roof. And the lower left is the proposed roof plan. And you can see where the stair roof replaces and is slightly larger than the screen porch roof. So this is the kitchen house. I'm only going to talk about the right-hand side for the moment. The left isn't visible from the street. So we have gone back and forth on the roofing is sort of a late change in the middle. Previously, we had proposed standing seam aluminum. This board had indicated that it needed to be copper. My client is on the board of the aquarium and is does not want to create the runoff that copper creates. It's harmful to crustaceans and mollusks particularly. So we are pushing back towards the original. We're just leaving this roof in this submission. On the left-hand side down low is the only one that's visible from the street. That is the front of the house. There's no changes except for some paint removal. The left-hand side of this drawing is not visible from the street. The right-hand side is down low. We'll start with that faces Broad Street. It's 3 bays, wooden doors, a wooden entry door, metal clad wood insulated windows like Marvin or something like that. And then we're proposing a composite recycled slate. We've got a sample of it over here for the roof. And then Old Carolina brick in a running bond. This is the Orange Street. How are we doing on time? We're okay.
Yes.
It's the Orange Street elevation, the flat elevation, and then the Broad Street flat elevation. And a few photos from Orange Street, a photo from Orange on the right and a photo from Broad on the lower right. And this is driving down Orange Street, the Google Street View. This camera is probably mounted at about 8 feet. They mount their cameras on top of the car. And then the view on the right, that's set at a 5'4" elevation, eye elevation, which is mine. The view on the left, I'm sorry, on the bottom right is from Broad Street. And so you can see the garage in the distance, the outbuilding in the distance, similar to other LeGree Street properties that have had garages added onto them. And then this is the, at the top, that's the view of the northeast corner of the property with the Victorian wing. And then you can see 15 Orange Street in the distance beyond. And then down low, you can see the view of property, which is about 47 feet back from that wall on Orange Street, that proposed building. And from Broad Street, I think it's 117 feet back. Got that number printed here. These are views from within the property, just to give you an idea of what the relation of the eaves and ridges are. We're lower than the ridge of the kitchen house by a foot. That was important to us. And then this is just, again, the overall aerial view. And I think I'll go back and ask Glenn to talk about the garden. Yeah, just one more minute.
Thank you, Simmons. I'll be really brief. I'm Glenn Gardner. I'm the landscape architect for the project, and we've been before you before with several other concepts. But what I wanted to relay to you today is that everything on the Broad Street public fronting side of the landscape remains what you all approved previously. And so what we have done is we've worked really hard to develop the interior of the property and create a project that allows some vehicular circulation to access the new carriage house, but also allows enough room to create a meaningful, sizable garden for the owners to enjoy. In our last visit here, we were still hoping to come off of Orange Street because, as you are probably aware still, until from the 1880s until almost 1980, all vehicular and carriage circulation came off of Orange Street. It never entered off of Broad Street. So now this property, which is about half the size of what it originally was, has all of its access coming off of Broad Street. So we're sort of taking a bit of a turn and creating an area for you to pull in, park, turn around and navigate, because we know that you cannot back up into Broad Street into traffic going either direction. So what is currently a circular hotel parking lot has been partly removed under the demo. And our goal is to create a motor court within about a third of the property in the back and use the other 2/3 to create a really great garden. Finally, we heard loud and clear from all the residents of Orange Street that they did not want to engage with the property in a visible manner. So that's why we really have put our garden along Orange Street so that there remains vegetation and greenery over that wall, as so many people kind of cited some old historic writings about not looking over that wall and seeing anything. So we're preparing the plans to have sort of citrus grove between the new carriage house and the Orange Street wall. And again, not at all touching any of the wall that is currently there. We will be back before you or before the city staff at some point with all of our details for walls, gates, hardscape. But we really just wanted to begin with a bit of a conceptual idea of where we were on the site plan. Simmons, are you?
I think that is it. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have a couple of just informational
Sure.
questions. The current porch roof on the kitchen house is painted turn,
That's correct.
and you're gonna remove that roof and go back with
We are gonna,
colored aluminum.
we're gonna keep that roof and recoat it.
Oh, okay.
Over the
And
porch.
so the only, because I thought there was a, of course, it's a little hard to read on.
Yes, and
I thought that was a note said that was to be removed.
there definitely was a last minute change on that roof on the roof in the kitchen. That could be a mistake.
The other roof then would be colored, painted, colored aluminum roof, the new section on the. on
That's,
the
that's
addition.
correct, right.
Do you have any idea what the technique will be for removing it from the
Yes,
carriage house?
um,
I mean, the kitchen house.
yes, we have a Kime biostripper and we did a test sample. I'm not quite pleased with the results yet. They think it, the contractor did it twice with the plastic cover and then pulled it off and not enough came off. So he was in a hurry to get the photo for the VAR and came in with the power wash. I was like, that's exactly what we're not doing. So we're working on that.
Thank you.
Some you had mentioned the composite slate for the new
Yes.
building. Do you want to show that?
Yeah,
Kind of explain that to us.
Yeah. Again, this is sort of the coming from the sustainable approach of the owner with recycled, fully recycled material, and it comes in a few different widths. It's a Brava tile from the a couple things about this being 117, I'll get the exact number, feet from the street. I think it may be a good candidate for this. And it also is another way to just distinguish the new building from the historic.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Apologies if I missed something, but so the main roof on the kitchen house will stay clay tile? Is that
Correct,
Okay.
yeah,
And then
the existing barrel top.
will you just kind of clarify why the new footprint is so close to the kitchen house footprint, like thinking there?
Yeah, so the main thinking, there are two pieces of it. One is the view of the piazzas and of the main building from Orange Street are important. So we feel like if we move that structure over, we would be obstructing those views of the main house. So let me get to a good slide to illustrate this. On the upper right-hand side, this is as you're coming down Orange Street, 15 Orange is the building on the left, the mass on the left-hand side. And so you get this full clear vision of the house and all of the dependencies are put in one part of the site. If this site were its original layout, we probably would lay them all the way on the west side. We thought it was inappropriate to pull one in front of the kitchen house, so this was sort of the best setup for it. And then another piece is just the open space and the garden aspect, keeping that formal layout as close to Orange Street of the garden. And we are going to put some orange trees back in there. That's why it was named Orange Street. The other side is vehicular circulation, so we think restricting it to that side is best. And that's why it's cited as is. The last slide.
Any other questions? Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Jones. Copy of the backup done, everybody. Madam Chair and members of the Board of Architectural Review Small. My name is Ellis Leisman. I'm here on behalf of the owners of 15 Orange Street, Marty and Darius Alloy. Madam Chair, I would ask that the packet that I've handed out be marked and entered into the record of this proceeding as a formal exhibit. Y'all can walk through this bit with me. This is the third time that I've been before this commission or another to speak about the significant transformation that's been occurring to this National Historic Landmark that now is running into the hundreds of changes. And now, as we've heard today, the changes that were requested previously are being foregone in view of new changes. Again, I know that y'all are all acutely aware of Charleston's history and its architecture, but this structure goes back to 1760. It is on the National Register of Historic Landmarks. It is the former home of the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence, as well as other prominent South Carolinians. It is a significant site. It's the type of site that the Charleston standards of the BAR and the Secretary of Interior's guidelines are intended to protect. The term carriage house, in terms of this project, I don't think that there's really any objection from the neighbors about the small alterations to the kitchen house. But what is objectionable is for the kitchen house to be dominated and obscured by what's not a carriage house. There will be no horses and there will be no carriages. It's a garage and a game room. It says it right on the plans. It is an oversized garage and it is an unnecessary game room. It is a 2,100 square foot structure compared to a historic 1,600 square foot historic kitchen house. It is situated where it is, directly blocking 6 windows from 15 Orange Street. And respectfully, I feel like the location of the structure is actually for that purpose, to create a sense of privacy. Whereas people have historically been able to see a garden, now they're going to see an oversized garage. Where they've been able to see open space, now they'll see significant hardscape. I didn't know it was funny.
It is great.
I'll ask while someone's speaking from the public, please exercise some decorum.
The proposed garage and game room specifically violate Charleston standards number 1, number 2, number 7, and number 8. That's because they interfere with spatial relationships in space. They detract from one of the city's important historical structures. They create a sense of faux historicism by creating a carriage house that isn't a carriage house, it's a garage. The main house is over 9,000 square feet. The kitchen house is 1,600 square feet. This used to be a hotel with 14 rooms. There is ample room within those 2 structures, which total themselves 11,400 square feet, to not necessitate a game room over an oversized garage. The game room, whether it be billiards or a Pac-Man game or whatever it is that the games that want to be played, there's plenty of rooms and plenty of space within the existing structure to do that, because that's important. The height of this building directly and adversely and significantly affects the value of my client's property by blocking every window on a house that was built and approved by this, by the city's processes, to have windows facing there over something that's been an open space for centuries. You were shown the Sanborn maps, and if you look at tabs 2 and 3 of what I've handed and entered as an exhibit, you'll see that since the 1700s, this has been open space. It has never been the location of a garage. It's never been the location of a carriage house, and it's never been the location of a fake carriage house that is 43 feet wide and 30 feet tall. My client understands, and I know this board understands, the need to have some level of practical flexibility. Someone may want to be able to store a vehicle inside, and that's fine. A two-car garage for a part-time resident of a single couple is likely ample. If you take away the unnecessary second floor for a game room, which is not an appropriate reason to detract from a historical structure, the width can diminish. And if you use proper dimensions, this does not need to be wider than 30 feet. It does not need to cramp on the historic house because, as the architect noted, it's 47 feet from Orange Street. It could significantly move towards Orange Street and then not block every single usable window from my client's house. It also could allow the garden space to actually be seen by the public rather than just by the owner. Respectfully, I'm not sure who Mr. Gardner was speaking to on Orange Street because everybody who I've talked to has not asked for this garage and game room, and they have not asked for the garden area to only be visible to the owner. That garden would be beautiful rather than the oversized garage and the hardscape. I think that the owners have their own reasons. Now, they're the owners of the property, but they also owe an obligation to the city as the owners of a historic structure. If somebody goes to Daniel Island, they can build a 3,000 square foot garage. They can build whatever the design review board might approve. This is obviously a different situation. If we don't treat it differently, then we are not protecting our history or our buildings whatsoever. This multi-stage metamorphosis has gone too far. While a garage could be appropriate, it should be one story. There is no need for a game room that interferes with other people's property and interferes with the historic significance of this structure. It should be moved. It could be brought toward the house. It could be brought toward Orange Street. It should be lower. The roof does not need to be so steep. It does not need to be so wide, and it doesn't need to be as deep. It doesn't need stairs to a second floor because the second floor is excessive and unnecessary for games. Now, again, if this were an auxiliary dwelling unit, well, there's already one on the property, and that would be limited to 800 square feet. This, again, 2,100 square feet. You're being asked to approve something that's inappropriate in mass, it's inappropriate in treatment, and it's inappropriate for the city of Charleston. Would ask that you deny this iteration of this proposal and ask for this group to honestly confer with the neighbors, despite what might have been suggested. The residents of Orange Street found out about this application on the afternoon of July 5th when it was posted. There was no discussion with any neighbors, much less Mr. Alloy, who is the most directly and adversely affected by it, before this application came to you guys over the July 4th holiday. So I don't believe that there's been openness, and I don't believe that there's any appropriateness to this proposal. Violates the Charleston standards, the Secretary of Interior standards, and should not be allowed. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking from the public? And I will say for the record, we've all reviewed the comments before, but there were 9 comments submitted in support by surrounding neighbors.
You would be glad to know I'm gonna be very brief. I'm Henry Grimble. I'm a resident of 11 Orange Street. I've lived there since 1981. When we found out late last week that this was gonna be before you, we conferred, and I just want to report briefly. In this conference, Alice reviewed our position, and Emily Longley at 112 Drive, Jeanette Cooper, I can speak to them, Jeanette Cooper at 4 Orange, coming up Orange, the Durseys who are here, coming further up, Mike Laughlin, who's been before you before, and Edward Bennett, who lives directly across Orange Street from where this would be built, and I, and my wife Virginia, all full-heartedly concur with Alice Lieberman's presentation. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking?
Summarize what I'm going to say, so I make it easier.
Could be, you. I think I. One. I'm Marty Alloy. My wife Doris couldn't be here today because of illness. We are the owners of 15 Orange Street. And I sort of feel like I've been a little bit hoodwinked by what's going on. Because when I bought the property, I knew it was on the Federal Register. And I also knew it was in a historical district of Charleston. And I never dreamed that the property would be developed with a two-car garage. Because when the house was built and separated from the main house, they put a wall between the two properties. There's no evidence of any structure being built other than the kitchen house. And then I'm surprised at what has been happening, because I just assumed that any changes would be made would be, changing windows and doors for efficiency in the wintertime and in the summertime, and just creating this house back to what its original mansion looked like. I can understand the wish for an automobile in a garage, but should it be one car, two cars, or three cars? And how much of the open space that we thought was restricted from further development should be allowed by it? I just am surprised at the magnitude of what they're proposing. I have some skill understanding the building business and what's going on. My company is going to deliver its 40,000th house sometime by the end of the year, and almost all of them have garages. Most garages allow 10 to 12 feet per car. Here they have 43 feet for three cars. You can do the math. The footprint is 1,048 feet. Just for three cars, it's just absurd to me. And especially blocking our view, because the house was built with the windows facing the gardens and facing Broad Street. And you can see Broad Street, and now with this being built there, there's no view whatsoever. The second floor apartment, game room and storage area is not needed, as the hotel had its bedrooms plus the two in the kitchen house and a full basement. And the storage, when it was a hotel, was all in the basement. There's plenty of room to do things. If it were a two-car garage, and I did the calculations on here, and I think they're sort of self-evident of space between cars, using a Tahoe as an example of size, not brand. And I think a 23-foot garage would really be the maximum for a two-car facility. They want a three-car. I don't even know if they should be allowed a two-car. They could also have attached the car to the main house. I don't know if that was ever considered or thought of. It would be a lot more convenient having your car parked next to your building rather than across this courtyard. The math is on the sheet of paper. I don't need to go through it with you. The height without the second floor would probably end up being 12 feet. And the roof would match the covering on the porch in the kitchen house. So I don't know what to say. It's just, I really feel like I've been hoodwinked by what's been going on here, because there's no respect for the heritage of the neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons why I bought the house in the first place. And now all of a sudden, Who's right? Am I wrong to complain? Or is there some history here where a two-story garage really is not necessary? The neighbors on our street are friendly. You would think the people that own this house would sort of get together with us and try to figure out what a solution should be, but it has not happened. And the sign was put up sometime after 3 o'clock Friday. We just happened to see it closer to 4 o'clock Friday. My lawyer was on vacation because it was July 5th and a lot of businesses are closed on July 5th. I'm sure some of you understand that. And this is really difficult. Coming here today on this short notice, rehatching what's going on. And we've asked them time and again for a site plan of what they're going to do. And they piecemeal us, and it's very hard. You know, I understand I can read the plans, I can understand it. But this piecemeal effect is really difficult on us. And I'm sure it's difficult on you guys because, you know, this is the third time you're hearing the same thing again, just a little different. You know, we're not breaching the wall. Now we're building a garage. We first started a garage without breaching the wall. I'm upset.
Thank you.
You will.
Do we have anyone else speaking?
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF has reviewed the application for conceptual approval for renovation to the existing kitchen house and new two-story carriage house at 117 Broad. And we thank the applicant for their time reviewing the drawings with us. Overall, we are pleased that this former bed and breakfast with 13 rooms is being converted into a single-family residence. We are also pleased that the property line has been abandoned so that the wall along Orange Street will not be penetrated to provide access to the rear parcel, which has now been eliminated. Regarding the proposed carriage house, HCF staff met with the applicant earlier this summer to review the proposed drawings for the structure. At that time, HCF expressed concern about the size of the structure and suggested a reduction in the width, height, and depth of the carriage house. The applicant has reduced the dimensions of the carriage house in response to our concerns. Relocating the exterior kitchen house stair to be inside the building is a positive alteration. We are concerned about the proposed roofing material of the carriage house. We recommend a traditional hand-crimped standing seam roof on the structure to correspond to the roof of the kitchen house porch roof. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciates the applicant meeting with us to discuss this project and commends the high-quality preservation work underway on the historic primary house. However, continued study is needed for the proposed building to more sensitively relate to the existing 18th century kitchen house. While we appreciate efforts to minimize visibility from Orange Street, there should be a greater relief between the new building and the historic kitchen house, while still honoring the legacy of open space on this unique historic property. The footprint should also be narrowed to achieve more vertical proportions per BAR principles. Historic precedents for dependency buildings of a similar scale are typically no wider than 2 bays on the gable ends, and the footprint should be no larger than the historic kitchen house. We ask that this proposal be restudied to be more deferential to the kitchen house and compatible with the overall historic property and the surrounding streetscape. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, you'll give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff had some observations. We felt that the proposal was appropriately scaled and is subservient in height, scale, and mass to the existing house while not overwhelming the kitchen house. The architectural direction is compatible with the existing structures, and the structure has been pushed back away from Arch Street to mitigate the height. Staff recommendation is conceptual approval with a final review by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Would the applicant like to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments?
Yes, please. I'll just take a minute to note that this is a complex project as a category 3 house, which is very surprising. It is because of the owner that it was listed in the National Register. And we appreciate working with the staff, Historic Charleston Foundation, the Preservation Society, and this board over the course of the last 2 years to do this project right. When we started, the first thing we did is have a sip and see with the neighborhood. That was over 2 years ago. And we talked about this carriage house at that point. There's been a lot of other interaction over time. So anyway, we appreciate your consideration of it. Mainly, we want to point out that the structure is subservient to the main building. Part of the combining of the lot is to bring all of those structures in relation to each other. It would be typical of a carriage house or a garage in this case to house items that are larger than in a kitchen house. So we feel it's appropriate that it's scaled how it is. And then we've kept the vertical proportions with the roof and with the window configuration and with the doors. So appreciate your consideration and glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump off here. I think everything that's happening to the kitchen house, I think those are all positive things. And I'm happy to see the tile roof staying. I actually like it. As the location of the proposed, whether or not you want to call it a carriage house or a garage, I think that's the logical place to put it on the lot. You certainly wouldn't want to put it in front of the kitchen house as viewed from Broad Street, and to slide it over towards Orange Street, it would really impinge on the garden space and the that's strong formality that's being set up by those rear steps. So, but what does bother me is that the way it sort of impinges on the kitchen house. I think it really cramps it, and I think that there is space that can be stolen out of the structure itself. I think some of the dimensions, internal dimensions, are pretty generous, and I think some of those could be. There are ways to whittle down the width of it some, and probably the best thing to do would be to lose a bay if it came to that. But I would first start by trying to kind of steal some of that space from the inside to sort of whittle down the width of it so it's not so pushed up against the kitchen house there. As far as the height doesn't so much bother me, but it's kind of the proportions do, especially viewed from Orange Street. To me, it looks a little, the roof line looks a little flat to me. It's just not, it's kind of atypical of what you would see. What I can say about the garage carriage house is I do like the simple approach, the simplicity of it. It's not trying to be something that's trying to outshine the kitchen house, but of course not trying to outshine the main house either. Oh, one other thing, back to the height. Like I said, the height doesn't really bother me, but one way I think to sort of visually reduce the height and improve the proportions possibly is just to make it a story and a half instead of a full 2-story. But I would like to hear what everybody else has got to say.
Kind of along the same lines, I think that the carriage house or garage is slightly lower than the historic kitchen house at the ridge, but it reads large, I think, in mass and height relative to the kitchen house. I think that perhaps narrowing it would improve the roof form. think the architectural direction in general is appropriate. The placement is certainly less than ideal, backing up so close to the open porch on the kitchen house.
I feel similarly, the proximity to the kitchen house porch is really uncomfortable in my estimation, and I agree about the proportions of that gable end, at the east. And it occurred to me, just throwing out a suggestion, that perhaps the bay that includes the stair could be sort of pulled out from under the gable and, you know, shrunk to be a slightly more minor mass, and that might help with the proportions on that east end and the mass of the roof in general. Personally, I think that if there were adjustments to pretty much all the dimensions, I think I could get behind this. I hear the concerns of the neighbors and the pining for the big open lot that it used to be, but, things evolve, and if they didn't, I guess there wouldn't be a house at 15 Orange or 13 Orange, because at some point, the owner of this property decided to subdivide and carve out other lots, and, I think evolution and change is just inevitable, if it's uncomfortable when it happens. And in terms of the specific program of their proposal, I don't really feel like it's necessarily our purview to judge whether a particular program is decadent or, to impose modesty on applicants in that regard. That would be a really difficult row to hoe, and I think a lot of our decisions and comments would be really different if that were truly our role. And I think it is worth acknowledging that the applicants radically altered their original proposal in response to concerns about, the integrity of that wall along Orange Street and not having any more vehicular access on that narrow, tight street, and I appreciate that. So again, in my estimation, I think there is room to trim, adjust, maybe consider breaking out that stair bay to be something smaller and distinguished, and to make this a little more comfortable back there. I don't know if it warrants going to a story and a half. I don't know that that would be the key, but I think it's a pretty reasonable proposal, all things considered.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask, the applicant, what is the I'm mainly talking about the new carriage building. What is the proposed wall structure that you're using? You rendered it pretty thick.
Yeah.
Is it all masonry?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. It is all masonry. It'll be block with bricks, so that starts to take up some dimension. The clients are currently undergoing a waterproofing project at their existing wood frame with brick veneer. So we're trying to avoid doing that. We think it's a longer lasting structure, better built if it's block.
Would be like 8-inch CMU with a veneer brick.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add to some of the comments that have been made. I think the trimming definitely would be, that's what I was asking about the wall structure, if they were truly rendered as thick as, and it sounds like they are, as you're proposing to build them. It does seem that, and there's not really a garage ceiling height listed, but the floor to floor is at 13.1-ish, maybe a little less than that. You've listed ground as your reference. I don't know if that's slab height on your drawing or if that's the true grade, adjacent grade height you're proposing there.
That's great. We're still working on all the civil stuff.
So you'd be calling your ground at 2'9". I mean, you'd be calling your slab height somewhere at, let's call it 3'3"-ish, maybe about 6 inches above adjacent grade.
Right.
Which is putting allowing, I mean, the span that you're proposing is around 23 feet. I would assume you may be thinking about using maybe at the minimum a 12-inch deep potential floor truss system or something like that. So take a foot out of that. We're still looking at a, pretty tall ceiling in that garage
Yeah, our engineer wants 16-inch open web trusses.
for that span.
Yep.
That's a good engineer, but he could get away with it. I can tell you that. Yeah, maybe for HVAC.
Still at 11.6, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty tall. So I think definitely some height could be potentially taken out, even if it's just out of the garage ceiling height proper. I know that would alter some of the bays that you're proposing for the vehicular activity, but there's still some pretty tall.
Can I make a clarification on that?
Yes, please.
And I think there's a lift that's going in there, so there's a drive under, and that's part of the reason we did compress from 4 to 3, so that we could put this lift in there and drive under as well. So that's why the ceilings are so high.
So there's even another vehicle that's
Responding to,
yeah.
responding to neighbor.
Yeah, it's a tough gift. I think that's part of the issue. The potential reduction in height. I'm hoping that would be viable to reduce that height. And then I like Julia's suggestion potentially about abbreviating the stair bay. Maybe adjust the proportions of what's presented to Orange Street and to the garden. At the same time, I do agree that the building appears to be crowding the kitchen house. I believe multiple comments were made to that effect. I know Preservation Society made that comment. I agree with that. I think it is very close and crowding of the historic building. So I think that's really all I had to add. And then I don't really have an issue with the modifications to the historic kitchen house. And just since you brought up the slate, that's going to be a pretty big stretch. That product, to me, that synthetic product is. I've never known a product like that to be approved, and I'm not really seeing that happening. But anyway,
Clarification. So if we can move away from copper and towards a standing seam metal, I think that would be a good compromise all around.
yeah, if I would think the board pretty much has a running sort of criteria of hand crimp. If that's
Sure, yeah, we can do
a
that.
possible solution, I believe hand crimp metal is something we've always entertained as an option. So yeah, I don't really have much else to add beside that.
Just to reiterate, I don't have any objection to the alterations to the kitchen house.
And I don't have anything to add, except if the plans did reflect removing that kitchen house roof. I would want to
Yeah,
make
that-
sure that we have a note about that. And then my other comments related to, again, I agree that the carriage house and kitchen house feel crowded. And I do think there could be some reduction in the overall size of that carriage house, but that's all I have. Julia, you look like you're working up a motion.
So Frankie, is it all right with you if it's bifurcated? Because I think there's no reason not to approve the kitchen house. Is that okay with you?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, like 2 motions? Just one.
How about a motion for kitchen house and then motion for?
I'm gonna make a motion for approval of the kitchen house. That is, it's all conceptual, right? For conceptual approval of the kitchen house, with final review by staff. And deferral of the carriage house with board comments to eliminate synthetic slates, reduce the height, scale, and mass of the structure. I'm not putting any specifics on that, I think. Here it is. to shift the footprint away from the kitchen house and provide relief. And to restudy the proportions of the east elevation.
Make a note on the approval of the house that, that's the note on the drawings, because I think we're approving those drawings, the drawings about removing the standing seam roof on the porch
Oh, okay,
is incorrect, and that removing the standing seam on the porch is not.
okay.
Good point.
So the removal of porch roof is not. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval of the kitchen house with a note that the plan should reflect that removal of the porch roof is not approved, with final review by staff and deferral of the carriage house with some board comments. First, to eliminate the synthetic slate. Second, to reduce the height, scale, and mass of the structure. Third, shift the footprint of the carriage house away from the kitchen house. And then fourth, to restudy the proportions of the east elevation of the carriage house. Okay, do I have a second to Julia's motion?
So,
Bill Turner,
yay in favor.
Stonewall,
Yay in favor.
Julia, Bill Huey. Declare vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, agenda item B2 is 58 George Street. Franklin, will give us an introduction and overview of the project, please. Actually, Simmons, Glenn, was this helpful or really distracting?
Keep going. I can use that, that's fine.
Was it I didn't know if it would be distracting.
Where my, athletic lives, I found myself.
Okay.
I'll see if I can find.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think it's fine if the applicants are.
Great. Nice to meet you guys.
Oh, no, I've got some, thank you. Not my turn yet, is it? I'm getting.
Oh, my turn first.
Okay, good.
58 George Street is in category 3, circa 1803 in the Old Historic District, requesting preliminary approval for renovation and new addition to the north elevation. This is the property's location on George Street. Some existing site photos. The architecture inventory from 1973 and an image from 2019. We've got the Bridges and Allen map from 1852. And Sanborn map showing the history of the property. Now it's your turn.
All right. Okay, bought me some time. Thank you. Okay. Gonna do my math, so it's like 35:40. I had myself a 15 minutes on this one too, so hopefully it goes well. Simmons Young, here tonight on behalf of the College of Charleston. On the cover, is a picture of the building just after the College of Charleston restored it in the 1970s. Albert Simmons made some drawings and reconfiguring the front entry, see, and adding salvage wood there. Removing a non-original west porch. That's what that picture is. And then Sanborn maps, again, we can come back to these. At the bottom right, you can see how much of the site this all occupied at one point. The photocopied image on the left-hand side is one that Tom found in the trash when the college was cleaning out the building. is the oldest picture of the structure that we found with the horse and carriage, circa 1883. And view of the current building. But that helped, we only had this plat on the upper right, so that image helped us define the front stairs. These are some other older images. The one on the lower right is the sort of Victorianized version with a bay window and a western porch. Do you know your Charleston? Before and after on the left and the right of the Post and Courier, and down below as well. Pictures of the roof. This proposal is to recoat this roof. We are demolishing, the demolition of the rear portion of the building was approved. We think we can salvage some pieces of that and use it where the roof is totally shot on this, particularly on the sides of the dormers. And then this is just the conceptual review comments about the hyphen, lowering the eave height, working to unite the north elevation design with the rest of the building, studying the cantilevered elevation, looking to increase the depth of the hyphen, material compatibility. We will review, you'll see these in the next few slides. This is the survey. And then the previous site plan, which we mostly stuck with, we just developed it so that the building spills out into the Barnett courtyard on the right-hand side. And then it has a forecourt on the St. Philip's side. The entry it's the only time this building's ever been accessible, which is one of the big focuses of the College of Charleston. The main entry comes off of St. Philip's now with that elevator that takes you down a few feet to the garden level and then up to the first floor. This is just George Street on both sides of the street. More streetscapes. Previous and proposed streetscape. And we'll talk about the simplified cornice once we get a little bit closer. And then this is across the street. Some site lighting that we can come back to, the egress sighting, the exit stair lighting, and second one down from the right, the front entry proposed lighting top, and then some sort of minimal exit lighting will be mounted to the side of the building, and then the posts that are typical of the college. Slide 17. Here's the garden level lobby demolition and previous, and this is sort of typical of the slides, I think, that you will see going forward. Now, the previous is on the left and the proposed is on the right. First floor plan, not too many alterations, really. We'll look at the entry in elevation is easier. This is first floor demo and first floor previous. And on the left is the first floor previous and the first floor proposed. The portal entry starts to show up. Get to that in just a moment. Third floor, second floor demo and second floor previous. And now I've got the previous and the proposed. And again, not many changes. We've been working with the college's user group to try and just work through these items. This is the roof plan, the demo on the left and the proposed on the right. And that's the previous roof plan, and then this is the proposed. So one of the things we've done is we've pulled the entire cornice inboard of the cornice of the historic building, which we'll start to look at. That was a SHPO comment. And it shows up here when you contrast on slide 27. On the top, you can see where the awning stuck out further, and now the awning you can't see it beyond the building from the primary side. The previous on the top and then the bottom. This is the facade I think that has the most elevation, that has the most impact to the street. So We removed the canopy and we made this portal entry, which only protrudes a few inches from the wall. We simplified the glazing. We got rid of a lot of the mullions. We did an inboard structural system, so it's all flyby muntins on the curtain wall. And then still the terracotta on the right hand of the elevation that sort of wraps up around the top. And then the cornice has been dropped 1 foot 2 inches, roughly number, yeah. And we have also developed the historic buildings. Received some as-built and then gone out and Tom's been on the roof measuring and gotten all that really accurate. So we'll talk about how that all comes together with the hyphen and the existing roofs. On the north side, the previous is on the top and then the proposed is on the bottom. It was a good suggestion to lower the concrete to match the stucco height. And also another good one, just pull in the stairs. So we did both of those things and it helps to define the volume. And then the joints of the terracotta now line up with the 5-bay division of the historic house. And then the glazing system has also been changed to a curtain wall for each of those 3 openings. So it is exactly the same as the other sides. The east elevation, the previous on the top and the proposed on the bottom. Similarly, we worked with the curtain wall system, and we do have a particular profile of that gives it a little bit more sort of a T shape on the exterior, so it gives it a little bit more thin vertical look. The learning stair has been pulled in and reconfigured to get the massing down. This was the previous concept of restoring the outside of the building, of the historic building, and how you might come into it. Some inspiration images. This was the Morgan Library. And as we get into a section, this is just a cut kind of showing how you'll perceive the historic building from the interior of the addition. And another section, one of the important things, we have put the college offices on the ground floor. Normally on a building like this, as you'll know, you'd serve the ground floor with mechanical from below and the attic from above. In this case, in order to keep the addition as small as possible, we've put all the equipment in the attic, which couldn't be occupied anyway because of the number of stairs. So all of our equipment has to come down over through the hyphen and then serve the second floor of that of the addition. And we'll get into sort of a detail of that. But we also shoved some storage under the stair, so carved out some space there, just again trying to keep the footprint compact. And then these are the wall sections. On the left-hand side, you can see the portal. So we've tried to take sort of the influence of a piazza screen where you have this smallish overhang, and the trick has been to push the door inboard so we get a full coverage of the door when it opens. And then the cornice on the upper side is a bent steel, and we're proposing a laser cut, which you'll see in some of the renderings, so that the shadows emulate the shadows of the historic building's cornice. The wall section in the middle, you can see where the wall comes down below the floor system there, and the terracotta does, which we have a sample of. And then on the right-hand side, that's the north wall, that same curtain wall system. And then this is a detail kind of talking about some of our limitations. We lowered again the building by 1 foot 2 inches. When we developed the historic, when we measured all of the historic details, the cornice was actually about a foot lower than the record drawings that we had. So it makes it a bit tricky once you kind of get, we sort of lost a little bit of ground with that. But what you're looking at on the right-hand side is the way that the mechanical, I think it is a 10-inch with 1 inch of the insulation each side. So 12-inch mechanical, 8-inch structure, and then the insulation just strictly for water in that hyphen. And then we come into the main building, and that's got 9 foot 6 inch ceilings. The hyphen's 8 feet. And so those are sort of our restrictions and trying to get all the flashing in and keep the building heights down. That's how we are at the moment. And looking from the south west side. This is the view of the building. We think that the hyphen nicely defines the edge of the historic building and features it. The prominent roof of the and dormers of the building make it much more prominent than the addition. Historic photo. I know we're at 10 minutes. Can I have a few more minutes here?
Give you 2 more.
2 more minutes, great. And then almost done. I think there's some influence images and the design sketch of that portal. This is how that portal would look in a rendering straight from across the street. So again, trying to simplify this and respond to board comments to make it a little bit glassier and lighter. This is coming up from Phillips, and I'm going to go to the other view that we haven't seen and end there, I believe. In summary, this is just the big live oaks with the historic building, the hyphen, and the new building. We think it represents well the College of Charleston's new master plan that was just put out called Tradition and Transformation. This is not the original use of the building. Obviously, that would be ideal, but the college is very unique. Again, it's a unique project, so we think preserving the historic structure and then showing sort of the forward-thinking 21st century college Charleston building with the addition is a neat way to do all this, and I appreciate your time. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
So a couple. Appreciate the renderings. Does the elevator overrun, is it visible anywhere from any public right of way?
It is not.
It is not. Okay, thanks. And then do you have any exterior mechanical equipment? Where is that going to be located?
We are pulling into the chilled water loop for the college. So, yeah, okay, it's great. Yeah, okay,
great. Thank you.
Just curious, the terracotta rain screen, do we have limited options in terms of colors and?
We have limited options. This is one that we're kind of looking at pretty closely. But they're all the ones that we're looking at are earth toned. They make fancy, reflective ones if you want them. The exposure, I think, is 7.5 inches. Is that where we were? Yeah, 8 inch unit there. Yeah, an 8-inch unit. So that matches the exposure of the wood siding. It'll be a good contrast.
And then the laser cut steel metal cornice thing that you're talking about, you have maybe one little image in here that sort of gives an idea what that is.
Yes.
Starting to think about it.
Yeah.
And is there a canopy over there that extends and has laser cut?
That one's not laser cut. That one's just regular, or keep the water out.
Okay.
But the rendering sort of shows how we think the light will come through.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciates the applicant reaching out to us on this project. We continue to be supportive of the overall design direction, but do not feel that the height of the addition has been sufficiently reduced per the board's previous motion. We ask for continued study to allow the cornice line of the addition to be lower than that of the historic building. Thank you.
April Wood of Charleston Foundation, HCF has reviewed the application for preliminary approval for renovation and a new addition on the north side of 58 George Street. And we thank the applicant for his time reviewing the drawings with us. We are pleased that the historic building is going to be rehabilitated, and we appreciate the efforts to retain the north elevation within the addition. We also believe that the reduction in the size of the cornice and the inset of the entry are improvements to the previous design. We continue to believe that the eave of the addition should be lower than the eave of the historic structure. We know that the applicant has carefully studied this aspect of the project, but we hope that the applicant can find a way to reduce the height of the addition in relation to the historic structure. We are unfamiliar with the terracotta rain screen. Because this material will be used on so much of the addition, we recommend careful evaluation of this material at the final review. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Is there anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll keep on moving. Staff had some observations. We acknowledge that previous comments have been addressed. The height has been reduced slightly and alterations in the corner treatment help visually lower. And the north elevation has been altered to be more compatible with other elevations. The fenestration adjustments further help harmonize the elevations. Staff recommendation is for preliminary approval with a final review by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything in the public comment or the city staff comments?
Yeah, I'll just mention briefly that we are aware of the cornice and that, you know, the eave restrictions. We have certainly worked as hard at it, and we can continue to do so. There are certainly restrictions because of the floor to floor and because of that equipment coming through. We can't have any. It'd be great to be able to step down into the addition, but with the accessibility things that the college has, we can't do that.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Sure. I still think this is a really cool project, and I'm hopeful that the details will be nailed and constructed as you want them to be. I think it could be a really impressive project for the college and the city. In terms of what seems to be the lingering concern of the preservation groups, and I get it, I know we talked about it last time. Maybe just go down to the code minimum at the second floor of the hyphen, which I think is 7.6. I think that would, I think that still is permitted by the building code, and that maybe that 6 inches would really just make the difference and get you below the actual soffit of the existing historic building. But otherwise, I don't really have any concerns. I think the changes you've made are positive. That laser cut steel element could be really cool. And I'm almost tempted to consider bringing it back here for final review, just to see it, since it's kind of civic, and maybe I'd like to think it might even be faster for just a clean final approval. But I don't know. I'll let you guys kind of weigh in on that.
I don't really have anything to add. I think all the changes have been very impactful. Some of them very small, but very impactful. But I think it's all headed in a very good direction.
I'm sorry, is that it, Bill? I'm sorry, cut you off. I guess I should have asked Simmons, this exposed segment of concrete wall, especially on the north elevation, what are you proposing the finish of that visible concrete be?
Undetermined yet. I know it's gonna be tricky.
Yeah, because it is sort of transitioning into the terracotta. I didn't know how that relationship would look or work. I'd be curious to see that. I will say with this material selection, which is very interesting, I would think maybe some form of mock-up would be a good idea. Just throwing that out, especially maybe to allay some of the especially the preservation groups about April. Like you said, I'm familiar with the material, to maybe see it in a mock-up would be helpful. And as Julia stated, I do hope that the way the detailing is put together will come off. Not that I'm skeptical, I'm sure you've got this figured out. I'm just looking at for example, your section at the lobby entrance, and I'm seeing this curtain wall with, I assume there's some form of clip-in support from second floor level. But it just looks like maybe I'm totally wrong. Just structurally, there's a little loose, anemic structurally in there, but hey, you may have it figured out. And be very interested to see how you come up with that. That's good. But overall, yeah, I mean, if lowering is possible, and I think, of any connecting elements, I think that's good, but I think as far as the overall direction of what you're doing, I think it's positive. I think the refinements you've made are positive, and some of the kind of interesting details you're proposing, I think could be very interesting. So, say good job on that. And yeah, that's really what I have.
Well,
Were you the
I voted against
new
this
user?
at conceptual, but I have to admit that the changes I think that have been made are positive. I think that the terracotta rain screen is interesting. I'm not quite sure how it's going to read in fact, so I do think it's a good idea. But that might be helpful. I still struggle a little bit with the north elevation. I think it still needs to work. I think that you know, I certainly am not opposed to a highly differentiated modernist tone addition to a building, but I think when you do that, it requires a lot of effort and it needs to be done very well. And then I think this is improved and it is growing on me. I'm not quite sure it's there yet.
I guess real quick,
I do agree that hitting the cornice height just below the main building would help just in general.
Yeah, I guess real quick, I should have asked, I'm not totally familiar with the terracotta cladding either, so I assume they have sort of set corners and components available
They do,
for that. So where you do have your glazing, for example, you have your corner there, but then you have a return to glazing, and so we'll see nice returns on all those. Great, thanks.
Lots of pages. Page 3. Okay, page 3 is not comments for a second. There were none. They have some observations. I think they. All right, and then.
Yeah, page 3.
Maybe I need page 2. Oh,
it's on the first page, just in the back.
I'm so sorry. All right, so I would like to make a motion for preliminary approval with board condition that the cornice be lowered some more. And we want to talk about the mock-up now, or would we just do that at final review, or?
I think we need a mock-up before.
Okay, yeah, and we would appreciate a mock-up panel.
Clarification. Funding is a problem. We don't have a construction budget.
Mhm. How about, what about a detailed drawing of what a mock-up panel would be? No, that's not the same.
I just want to put that out there. I would have to talk to the project manager and try and figure that out. I know she's anxious to.
So you're definitely getting terracotta rain screen and really cool glass,
We
right?
don't have a contractor that can, I mean, they have a small, we'll figure something out.
I mean, just interested to know, so the length of those terracotta
Sure, yeah.
strips and things like that, so how the seaming works, how the corners work.
Yeah.
Just be interesting to get an idea of what those details are really gonna look
The
like.
supplier might be able to provide you with some really good photographs.
They may have
of
photographic,
similar.
I appreciate the limitation, but if possible, a mock-up would be helpful.
Can we be applicant to explore a mock-up?
Yeah. Board comment to consider providing a mock-up of the uncommon.
Next to me, if you have any really particular comments, questions about the terracotta.
Is that done?
The cornice, mock-up, those are the two things I had notes on. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for preliminary approval with two board conditions. One, the cornice should be lowered more. And two, the applicant to explore, the possibility of a mock-up. Do I have a second to Julia's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill Turner. I'll put the motion to a vote. Fillmore.
Yeah.
Bill Huey. Julia.
In favor.
Bill Turner.
Yeah, in favor.
The chair votes to the majority and the motion passes 4-4 and 1 against. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3, 175.5 Wentworth Street. Frankie, you'll give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
.5 Wentworth is in Charleston Village, which is Council District 8. It is not surveyed circuit 1858 in the Old Historic District. Requesting, I have preliminary / final because I know Joel marked final on his application, approval to elevate the structure to 12 inches above BFE, closed rear porch, remove the HVAC, build new deck, and build new stucco wall. This is the property's location on Wentworth Street. Some existing site photos. Context of Wentworth. And Sanborn maps showing the property. I'll turn it over to you, Joel.
Thank you. I'm Bill Adrian, Coastal Creek, designer for 175.5 Wentworth. If the zero is correct, this is a cover sheet, gives some background information. Yes. Existing survey, and this is your second time seeing this, and so I'll just kind of go through this first part pretty quickly. But I believe we addressed the study that addressed the board comments from the conceptual review. I'll point those out. Bill had some concern about the entry to the property because it's a gravel drive, so we are showing with a planning on a paver entry to the pervious paver entry that goes, or apron, sorry, to the lot, and then maintaining the gravel driveway from there. And then there was it's just some existing site photos, the streetscape as is today. There are other existing photos of the property. And the foundation plan did not properly show the indentions that are planned to the foundation, so that has been addressed on the second round here. Existing floor plan. On this sheet, you have the previous submitted, should be on the top, and our current proposed is the one below. Julie had mentioned studying the fenestration on the piazza elevations. So we've done that. I'll get into that a little more on the elevations, along with Bill had concern where the porch addition was and how that was drawn and the corner board not being expressed, and there was an error in the drafting because there's like a 6-inch step between what was condition space to the porch, and that corner board is there, and it has been taken care of. We also adjusted the front stairs into that part with the elevations. So these didn't change, they're just building sections. Here we go, front elevation, the original proposed on top and our revised below. And there was a request to try to lower the height of the elevated structure. We looked at that, and because the house sits back oddly enough, on the property, we were able to put like a low planter in front, which is being shown there. It would just be stucco, a wall with a simple cap on it. There was also a concern about the number of all the risers going up to the piazza were exteriors, so we did reduce that. I think we took top 3 out and set those inside the piazza so that it would lower the appearance of the stairs. It took the roof over the piazza screen door and screen wall, brought that down some. I believe that was a positive change on the elevations. The existing side elevation, and then that was the proposed on top, and our previous submitted, sorry, on top, our proposed is below. And you can see that we did make the adjustments that were requested as far as studying the relationship of windows and doors from floor to floor. And then on the back side, you can see now that screen porch that is being enclosed, corner board is expressed, the foundation treatment has been adjusted to work with that as well. I think there was some concern about the type of lattice that was being called out between the piers. I think we just had flat 1x6s. We're going to do treated louvers between the piers. And that's the existing rear and proposed rear. I don't believe there were any real adjustments on rear. Side elevations didn't really change. And then that just shows the change that you'll see on the Wentworth streetscape. But I believe that we heard the comments from the board, and we addressed the comments, and I think there were positive changes that were made. I agree, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Do we have anyone speaking from the public? Okay, Frankie, if you give us the staff comments and recommendations, please.
I'm gonna kind of skip over number 1. That was just if we had concerns about flooding, and we just wanted to explain what we look at for elevating structures. Staff observations of the previous conditions have been addressed, and we have no additional comments. The risers have been recessed into the piazza and lowered the piazza door. Fenestration is more unified, foundation has been revised, planters provided at the front elevation to mitigate height, and new fenestration and cladding were revised and site plan provided. So we were recommending preliminary approval with a final review by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the staff comments?
I got pretty pleased with that. Thank you.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. And Frankie mentioned it earlier, but I think you requested final approval.
I just meant so I wouldn't have to come back here.
Oh, okay.
The drawings.
So the drawings are
done,
not.
and then, no, those are not the final.
Okay,
drawings,
okay,
yes.
well. Never mind.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. I appreciate the changes that have been made. I think I really have one minor comment, and it is the on the, to the correct side here, the proposed right elevation. It's on your A115. Thank you.
See if I can bring that up.
Yeah, I'll try to do it for you, Joe.
Great, great. Just a minor detail. I would like to see if it's possible to potentially thicken the piazza screen wall so it looks like it's sort of bearing that column. See now, it just looks like that column is sitting asymmetrically on top of a frame wall, maybe a 2x6 frame wall. So thicken that wall to properly, visually at least, bear that column. Some minor detail.
I also appreciate the changes, especially the improved fenestration on the piazza. And I think lowering that piazza door really helped. I had a question about the planter at the front. I think the thickness of that wall structure will will affect how much actual plant medium you have, and so maybe just make it a little fatter and eliminate the recessed panels on the front. I don't think you would need those if you have the planter. If that makes sense. And the louvered panels for under the piazza. I appreciate the notion of them being louvers and not just flat, but I'd be really concerned. It looks like they're probably gonna be like 7 feet wide if you're just suspending, 1x4s between two studs on the end. I just think they'll probably start to get kind of
We would provide
saggy.
a little brace on the interior so you can see it from the exterior, so they could all get connected mid-span, so they're, we can have 3.5 feet of span on that loop.
Okay, all right. I mean, kind of falling out of love with wood in general these days, but anyway, I think that's about it. There is some reference to an aluminum gate, which I don't know, not sure exactly where that's proposed, but I would hope it would be an
No, I
iron
would change it'd be iron.
deal.
I pretty much agree with, we just kind of summed it all up. I do have also have some concern about the planter. How you could really sustain much planting in there, but it's not very deep. I guess that was sort of in response to a comment I had. I had kind of envisioned taking that little short little wall out by the sidewalk and maybe just raising that whole grass pad up a little bit. But anyway, I think you could do either way. If you go the planter route, I do think it needs to be deeper. The lower in the piazza entry door, that was huge. Just made an enormous impact. On the right elevation, this is just very minor. I don't know if we should call it corner board or not, but the reintroduced corner board. Maybe since it's reintroduced and it wasn't really actually corner board, maybe it slides over to the left and kind of justified with what's going on up above it. Yeah. Because it's really just there to divide the two different siding profiles now.
No, so actually, in
Planer,
plan, there really
There's
is,
a
there
plane
really
right
is a
there.
break right there from
Oh,
where
gotcha.
that porch is that was added to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It steps in there.
It's
Yeah,
like a
okay.
6-inch little chop right
Yeah,
there.
you're right. Okay, scratch that. And then I agree with some of the site details, the foam, stucco over the foam, just do that brick, you can produce those dimensional changes, just by using brick, and not the stucco over foam. I'm not a big fan of concrete pavers in the historic district, so whatever you do with your apron, I would just suggest a brick. But overall, I think it's come a long ways and it's working very well.
I don't really have anything to add. It's been well covered.
Everybody,
Yes. See this wall thickness right here, Julia?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Increase thickness of piazza screen.
Yeah.
So, I'll make a motion for. Yep. To have all the things it needs to have.
He was asking for final review by staff, and so.
Right, but even preliminary, do we have all the wall sections and everything that would be required for preliminary? No, I don't think so.
Building sections, but I don't have the detailed wall sections. Sorry.
That's all right. I might just do like a just for technical reasons, because I don't think it includes what it's supposed to for preliminary review. I'll just defer it for final staff review, something like that.
So he doesn't have to come back to the board.
Right, I know he doesn't want to, and I understand that. So I'll make a motion for deferral for final review by staff with board comments to enlarge the planter and eliminate the recessed panels at the front elevation, front foundation. All metal elements to be wrought steel, not aluminum. Right?
All metal elements to be.
It's too word, oh no. It's really iron, whatever. Wrought iron. Not aluminum. Use traditional pavers at the driveway apron. And increase thickness of the piazza screen wall. Anything else? Final review by staff.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor for deferral. With board conditions to enlarge the planter and eliminate the recessed panels at the front elevation foundation. 2, all metal elements should be wrought iron. 3, use traditional pavers at the driveway apron. And 4, to increase the thickness of the piazza screen wall. And final review by staff. Do I have a second to Julia's motion?
I'll second.
Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill Huey,
Yeah,
Julia,
In favor.
Bill Turner.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 4, 150 Spring Street. Frank, you could give us an introduction, overview of the project, please.
150 Spring Street in Canterbury, Elliotbury. It is a category 4, circa 1872 in the Old City District, requesting conceptual approval for a new ADU at rear of property. This is the property's location on Spring Street. Some existing site photos. Context of Spring Street. And Sanborn map showing the history of the property. The applicant.
Thank you, Joel Adrian, coastal creative designer at 150 Spring Street. The program was to I guess, back up, there's existing survey. And then our proposed is to add this ADU in the back of the property. We have received our zoning approvals. We didn't need any special exceptions. We're under the maximum height, number of stories, and have our parking. The program was to create a nice small little ADU that as far as footprint has basically 2 main levels, and then there's a partial third. So it's not a full 3-story block as it comes up out of the ground. There's some context photos of the street photos, and then our streetscapes that are drawn. They're showing some heights of the existing houses that are on the property, height of the existing building at 150 Spring and in relation to everything else on the street. And floor plans, first floor, enter to a common space, a little office or room in the front, and to right here, firstly, yes, and then they had 2 bedrooms in the back. Stairs go up to a 2nd floor, which is where we have the kitchen and the living space, 1 additional bedroom, and then that 3rd floor is, I guess we'll call it the owner's retreat, basically, and then it would go out to that upper deck. And think the value of the upper deck is, it really helps to reduce scale of the building on the site. In relation to everything else that's there, and just some sections to kind of give you an idea of the volume. And then our elevations, we are looking at this as a concrete block with stucco finish, hard coat stucco on it, and then ring interior to be able to do some insulation and our interior finishes. I think we've set the elevations up where I think we have hopefully logical window placements, locations. Kind of takes care of this, just gives you an idea of the project on the site. And here we can see it in relationship to the existing house on Spring Street, and that we have set it lower so it's subordinate. And I'll leave it at that for other questions.
Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you. Anyone speaking from the public?
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF has reviewed the application for a new ADU at the rear of the property at 150 Spring Street. We have several concerns about the height, scale, mass, and architectural direction of the proposed structure. And we do not believe the structure relates architecturally to the surrounding context or the historic house on the property. We suggest that the project could be improved with the following modifications. Change the roof form so that the third floor is all under a gabled or hip roof. Dormers could be added to provide more living space on the third floor. Because the mass of the proposed ADU is so large, there is no green space on the site. We suggest reducing the mass of the ADU to provide some green space for vegetation. Taking up all land on the parcel with driveway and parking does not fit in with the residential context or character of the neighborhood that we are striving to preserve. The control joints of the stucco detract from the overall appearance of the structure. We suggest using an alternate material such as wood siding to eliminate this problem. Wood siding would also fit better into the architectural context. We respectfully recommend denial of this project for restudy. Thank you for your consideration of our comments.
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. While the PSC is not opposed to a dependency on the site, this proposal is not adequately subordinate to the primary building and should be restudied. The overall height and the scale of the fenestration and top floor in particular should be reduced, and the footprint narrowed to be appropriately differential to the historic building. Given the level of restudy needed, we ask that this proposal be deferred. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, height, scale, mass is inappropriate for the location. Proposal feels big and blocky and does not feel subordinate to the existing structure or context. Architectural direction is incompatible with the existing structure and doesn't appear residential in character. We think it is more in line with a commercial building or an inn. We also wanted to confirm construction materials. The drawing indicates that the structure is stucco over CMU, but there appear to be expansion joints more appropriate to stucco over frame. Staff recommendation is deferral for restudy.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Adrian, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments?
No,
All right, public comment to the applicant's presentation is not closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I think staff's observations are right on the money. I agree with all of them. I think it's foreign to its context. It's very monolithic, very one-dimensional, and it's definitely not subordinate to the main house. I do think that this is. I never like saying that something is a do-over, but I kind of feel like this is a do-over. It just needs to be a fresh direction taken on it. And I do agree with the comment about the site. It's jam-packed. There's not much room for green space. The parking dimensions, the parking space dimensions, they're extremely generous. So, you know, you could pick up some room by narrowing those down. Reducing the footprint of the ADU, I think also.
You know, I'm not, this isn't really an ADU. I mean, the city governs what's an ADU. This is a dwelling, right? This is a 2,200 square foot dwelling. Just a technicality. And Bill, I'm sorry, I'm so like jaded now, but I'm like, nobody is gonna come to Spring Street and work in an office with a full bathroom. It's gonna be another bedroom. But I mean, I would tend to agree with Bill. I think it needs to be completely rethought. Just height, scale, math, and architectural direction. But something could certainly happen there that would probably accommodate almost everything you are hoping for.
I agree, and I think another comment was, you know, concern the material choices. I do think that there is what's proposed is sort of incongruous with the main house. Maybe the material choices need to be reevaluated as well. And I'm hoping we didn't approve these things at 152 because the trim on this thing is horrendous. Sorry, that's a very total sidebar. Thanks for the pictures.
Is that from our era?
I hope it's not from our era.
Is that?
Those were actually modular. I remember those
From the 90s?
from like the 90s.
Okay, that's not on that.
They were carved in on the side.
Total sidebar.
Yeah.
All fine. Usually typed out comments, so I have nothing to add.
Sorry,
Julia.
I'm gonna make a motion for denial. Based on height, scale, mass, and architectural direction.
We have a motion on the floor for denial.
Second.
Bill Moore, I'll put the motion to a vote. Bill Turner,
Yeah, favor.
Bill Huey,
Yeah, in fact,
Julia,
In favor.
Bill Moore.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Okay, agenda item 5, 948 Rutledge Avenue. Frankie, if you give us an introduction, overview of the project, please.
948 Rutledge is in North Central Council District 4. It is new construction in the historic corridor. We are requesting conceptual approval for a new single-family residence. The property's location on Rutledge Avenue. Existing site. In context of Rutledge. Rachel pulled the Sanborn just to give an idea of the structure that was previously there, I think. Sure, got the, I don't know what to get that. I'm gonna go over to the applicant.
I can't see the. Good evening, I'm Andy Barber with Generation Homes. Speaking here tonight for the applicants, John and Caitlin Swanson are here and their parents, and Daphne Works Design Group, who's done these drawings for us. So this is a family piece of property that the Swintons would like to build on. They own the property next door as well, where they currently live. And this lot has been vacant. We weren't able to find any photos or any conceptual or anything from any of the past buildings. It's kind of surprised when the Sanborn map showed that. We haven't found anything from that. But at any rate, they want to build on this lot now. It's a very small non-conforming lot. We've been through zoning. We've been approved by zoning for three things: relief from the side setback, left side setback from 9 to 5 feet, for release from the 25-foot front setback to an existing condition setback to be in line with the front, and non-conforming lot size because this lot was platted years before the minimum lot sizes were put together. There's a simple, just the original, you can see the size of the lot there, very, very small lot. This is the proposed site plan showing the zoning approvals that we have for the left and the front. And we did also take this, just as a quick note, we did take this before the North Central Homeowner or Community Association and received very positive feedback and comment from that association early on in the design process. So this is our proposed site plan. It's a very small structure. It's 1,100 square feet on the main level, which the owners will occupy. The second level is an internal ADU of 850 square feet. Get back to the plans. You've already seen these photos. This is the first level. Again, approximately 1,100 square feet of living space. Second level is 850 square foot internal accessory dwelling unit that they intend to use for family at this point. Elevations are, the neighborhood is a mix of different houses. The house next door is a pretty typical brick 1.5-story home. The house to the left is at the corner of Mount Pleasant and Rutledge, which everybody knows is the great stucco house. I think it's green now, changes color on occasion. So that's our house to the left of us. But we're proposing a very simple construction, Charleston style construction, be on a raised slab to keep the house a little bit lower, congruent with the properties on either side, which have, virtually non-existent crawl spaces. Wood frame construction, architectural shingle roof, very, very commensurate with what is in the existing neighborhood. Again, streetscapes showing the mass of the property. The top line is the street to the left. The house to the left is at the corner of Mount Pleasant Street. Property to the right is the current property where they're living. And then these are the exterior conceptual renderings of what we're proposing. The driveway, because of the lot size, we are going to do a walk, impervious walk, but the driveway would be pervious, most likely gravel. The driveway because of the lot size. The lot's barely 4,000 square feet. Rest of the conceptual. This is easy. It's brand new.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
It's half my time.
It was quick.
Yeah. Like I said, this is brand new. It's easy.
Yeah, just a quick one, sorry. Andy, I know this is conceptual. Can you just give us just a little summary of the materials you're thinking would be used on this?
Yeah, it'd be it's gonna be we're proposing a raised slab foundation with stucco over the masonry. The exterior siding would all be cementuous, hardy, cementuous siding with the 5-corner, 6-inch corner boards. Again, hardy, cementuous, fascia, trim, freeze, and again, architectural 50-year shingles.
Yeah, another question. No. Frankie, could you just remind us or clarify? I think it's relatively recent that we are exercising this kind of purview above Line Street on this commercial.
So we do have purview over new construction on the historic corridors. We have limited purview over any alteration to residential less than 8 units. And then we have sort of the regular demo purview in that area. But we do have it's just Rutledge and a couple other streets that we have the purview over the new construction.
And
Regardless of residential.
staff's estimation, that is the same type and level of purview that we have anywhere that we review new construction.
That is how we have done it in the past. I think the only other ones we have reviewed in this area were the one side of F Street.
Oh, and I was thinking the one south that was the Freeman's Cottage, and they were putting a new structure in the back,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
further south,
Right.
and then redoing that historic storefront, which I think we did not, at least on that one, we think did not exercise the same level, not to say that we don't, but
Right,
it
right.
made sense that we would treat this area differently, even though we have purview.
And the other ones that we reviewed, on F Street, we have reviewed slightly differently because that is, there's one side of F Street that we have purview. Because one side of the street backs up to,
We literally missed it by 50 feet. We kind of got caught off guard. When we originally went for zoning, the day of zoning, it was discovered that this board had purview over the property and zoning kind of missed it. So we were,
Like people on the other side of Mount Pleasant Street missed Emma.
yeah, we literally missed it by 50 feet. So.
Yeah, when the,
so we do have the purview over new, but we have been more flexible with I think 2 that I can think of, we've reviewed.
Just like, for example, thickness of the siding.
Thickness of the siding and more the usage of materials. I think we've been leaning toward kind of the North Line material replacement policy, kind of doing that.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, do we have anyone speaking from the public? Okay, Frank, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, staff thought the height scale and mass was appropriate for the context. And this is where I assume we're a little different. While the proportions are a little different than we're used to, since it's mimicking a piazza infill, but slightly different, wider than that, we didn't find it inappropriate for the location and for new construction. So our recommendation was conceptual approval with a final review by staff.
Mr. Barber, did you want to respond to or clarify anything in the staff comments?
No.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I think it's a very pleasant design. I think it's pleasantly detailed. I think Bill brought that question up. I think material palette is a little unfortunate for a really pleasant design like this, but I'm not sure that our purview extends to that. But I do think it's a very pleasant design. I think it's nicely detailed.
got some nice detailing to it. The one thing that I would really have something to say about is the roof form. The shed roof portion of it, if it could be lowered a little bit. It seems to be kind of dominating the gable. And it may not be perceived as much from the ground as what you see in an elevation.
In true elevation, yeah, and it is set back, which I think.
Yeah.
Which helps, I think.
But that, I think, I agree with Phil Moore. It's got some nice detailing.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time just bonding with our approach to this, because I get it, it's a small lot, but it's a lot of house that's being put on it. It's 2 dwellings, and I'm glad the city now embraces additional dwelling units, but it's a lot. And if we're reviewing it, it seems to me there are some simple moves that could be made to really improve at least the front elevation and the public facing elements. The gable that sort of defines that single house, that ridge, it's really pretty arbitrary in terms of its relationship to the porch element. So the gable form could get wider and the little porch element could get narrower, and that would really improve the proportions. And then a simple parapet roof would probably be a lot nicer to look at with a low slip roof behind it. There's a lot of space between the header of the windows on the first floor and the sill of the windows on the second floor. So yeah, again, I see a lot of things that are relatively simple to finesse and adjust for a new house. But I'm just not sure what to do.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how far we can take it. I mean, you can take it as just suggestions. I agree. Some of your comments, or I was looking at the little shed roof and saying, well, that could have been hit, just simply cut that back. Like an easy way to solve that, potentially solve that issue. Definitely I agree with you about essentially the window proportions. I mean, the only 6'8" header, obviously those could be potentially raised up a little bit, give them a little more verticality. But again, these are things that I don't know if we necessarily get there, so I'm just throwing these out as maybe suggestions if you take it that way. I think that it is not a very large house, and when you look at the streetscape, it's diminutive, it sort of fits in. I think if I would be pleasantly accepting if you just have like a little maybe a Davis and Downing little cottage or something up there, something kind of cute, but anyway, it is what it is. So I don't really have, if you can say that I have any, disagreement with staff's comments or recommendation. I would say I agree with the staff's comments and their recommendation.
It is something we want to see again, and it is.
And I don't know, it's like we're like de facto establishing some sort of approach to this whole part of the city that is not formalized anywhere. I don't know. It's odd.
Yeah, and I think even this is, and I think we can have two different approaches with existing structures in this, as existing historic structures in this stretch versus new construction, which I think we, at least on one prior one I can think of. So there's only one precedent. We were much more flexible on the new structure.
It was.
So I think
way
we are
back
set.
behind some historic stuff. I mean,
Yeah, so this is the first one that's storefront, so I think we are setting some precedent in this area with new construction that is the main building. And I personally am in favor of a more flexible approach in this area with new construction. And given the size of this lot as well, just.
I'm just gonna go with whatever staff got here.
So Bill, were you making a motion?
Yeah, I was looking for the conceptual approval of final review by staff with staff's observations. Well, those are all positive. I didn't really want to make a laundry list of ours because I think we're kind of getting into that stepping. So.
Yeah.
I want at least like. The windows.
We could be suggestions, we can say board suggestions to raise the heights of the windows. And maybe study maybe a hip form for the side mass.
Window headers on first floor.
Yeah, they're kind of what Julia's observation is dead on. There's a lot of room between the windows, and so that would show nice verticality.
And then your second one was,
Potentially study maybe a hip form or a parapet form to the little side mass. Left side mass. And final review by staff.
all right, so we've got a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with some board suggestions to consider revising the height of the window headers on the first floor. And what did I say?
You said
Revising, because I can't read my writing.
Just don't lower them.
Just revise them. Raise the height and to study a hip or parapet form on the left side mass. And final review by staff. Do we have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second.
Bill Turner. Put the motion to a vote. Fillmore,
Yay in favor.
Julia,
Lamppost.
Bill Huey,
Yeah,
Bill Turner.
In favor.
The chair votes with the majority and the motion passes 4 and 1 against. Thank you. Okay. Yes, we are going to take a short break for 10 minutes. We'll be back at 6:50. Does everyone want to hand me their exhibits?
You gonna settle them?
Yes, a lot of money stuff. I just figured I would. Unless anybody wants to keep their exhibit, you're welcome.
It's not bad, but I think, yeah, I think it was one of them, I think. Seems like
That would have been bad.
No, they just. It was still on there.
We all went through that. We all went through it together. This is trauma.
What are you doing here?
I have like. I was searching.
Oh, good. I knew you went to the either side of side. What number are you? Oh, man.
That's my. Yeah.
Nobody else could.
I never know that. I think so. I was a little bit.
I don't know that they're working right now.
I
Yeah.
think this one.
I'm sure it's easier being on this side.
For some period of time. It feels so.
It's like, okay, who's coming? We just.
What was
17 Broad Street.
I'm sure it's just. Little one. Yeah. Yeah. Clamp it. Yeah. Yeah. I just bought one of those. $50 tags. They weren't anything fancy, but for him, they were. Yeah. Fancy. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They, I mean, they are in New York, either. We used to have to travel. Trafficking fireworks.
Get wrapped up. Okay. Frankie, you want to give us an introduction overview of agenda item 6, 158 Spring Street?
Map 158 Spring Street in Canterbury, Elliott Borough. It is not surveyed circa 1840 in the Old City District. Requesting conceptual approval for exterior alterations and addition, including extending rear porch to the. This is the property's location on Spring Street. Some existing site photos. Context of Spring Street. And the architecture inventory from 1973. They have sent board maps too. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. My name is Skip Wallace. I'm the architect with Island Architects. We're doing this project with CKC Properties. Basically, it's a complete restoration of a historic home. We're going to try to do everything we can to utilize what they've got. If we have to replace it, we'll do it in like kinds and color. The only things we're asking for, because I can't document on the second floor, right now, you look at all those windows, they're actually double doors, all 4 of them. There are a pair of very thin French doors. While that works with the layout we're proposing on the inside, we would prefer to replace those with double hung windows like the other ones in the house. The only picture we found was that 1972 one that you just saw, which is where it's screened, so we can't really see what's happening behind it. I think when we get into demo, we might find out some things when we open the wall up and maybe see if there was a history of something, that maybe a sill that was replaced or removed. So it's kind of in flux, but that's one thing we're asking for. It's in very bad shape, and people over the years have replaced balustrades with whatever they could find. So it's going to be difficult to determine what was original, but feel like the second floor balcony has the most consistent balusters, and therefore probably was original. So we'll probably wind up and duplicate those, but there's just a mishmash all around the house of balusters. There are some brick steps on the left side. You can see in that drawing right there that were very odd, awkward, added to the end of the first floor piazza to get down, I guess, to the driveway. They're obviously newer and very awkward. We're proposing to remove those and replace the handrail. On the rear, I don't know how to do this actually.
I'll flip through. Do you want the rear elevation?
I'm old. Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. The left-hand side is the existing, the right-hand side are the proposed front and back elevations. The bottom right is the back elevation. What we're requesting is the ability to add a second floor porch. There's a sister house to this right next door, like 12 feet away. It's the absolute same house, and it has a 2-story porch that's been added on the back. We're trying to, I think we can do a much better job, but we'd like to add that second floor porch. It makes the floor plan a lot more viable for today to be able to add a couple of bathrooms in the middle of that porch. We're proposing that the exterior bays, the 2 exterior bays, remain as just porches, and from the street you would not see the interior bays that have walls. I went to the extreme on both sides, and there's no way you'd be able to see that second column in. So it's strictly on the back. we're requesting on the first floor, there's an awkward window on the lower left. Doesn't look like it was original. We're requesting that we replace it in the same place with a door. That would be our entry from the rear. There's a lot going on in the middle of the back, that's really bad. And a little addition they built out of plywood. And then they boxed in an existing door with siding, so we're gonna tear all that out and replace it with a couple of windows. And hopefully enclose the middle bays on the bottom and the top. That would give us the ability to create some bathrooms for this home. We're requesting, once we take the brick steps off the lower left there, we're requesting that there's a brick wall that extends to Spring Street. From the extreme left of those, we're requesting that we be able to move that to the side of the house, to the last column, so it makes more sense and gives us a wider driveway between the houses. It's very narrow. Everything else we're gonna do, replace, repair, replace, and like kind. Rebuild the chimneys, repoint them, whatever we have to do. Roof, replace it, we have to with similar material, similar color. The columns are as bad as the balustrades. There's not a single column that matches another one, so again, we're gonna try to determine which one might be the original and try to just duplicate it. We will use solid columns. The house next door did some contemporary, modern Tuscan columns that are fiberglass, so we're not gonna do that. And that's it. That's what we're asking for.
Any questions for the applicant?
The sister house next door, what's happening with the doors on the upstairs porch there? Can you use that as a clue as to what you do with yours?
It's a different, the facade that matches, that faces us is identical. That house is a little wider and always had an appendage off the back left. So it's kind of hard to see. It's only got 2 bays visible of the porch. It's kind of hard to see what was done to it, but.
Reasonable. French doors.
Yeah.
It looks like there's French doors on 160.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you mean the front?
Yeah.
I'm talking about the back. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll look. We can look at that and see.
Any other questions?
And the roof is pretty much unsalvageable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's an old tin roof. We'll replace it with the same spacing up.
Yeah. Just don't do what they did next door, because they also put a bad roof on that one in addition to the columns.
Oh, no, we won't do that.
Any other question?
Real quick, skip on the back here where you got the new porch proposed, and then you're gonna infill these 2 center bays. And I see you're continuing the balustrade and the railing and partial columns there. Is the actual railing gonna become the sill of that window?
No, we're gonna do, instead of half pilastres, we'll go to like almost 3/4, so we can do a full self-supporting balustrade that won't touch the siding.
Okay,
So the siding will be inbound from that.
okay. So that window, and then there's a shutter shown there. Maybe this is just a graphic thing. It just looks like the shutter is almost below or behind that railing.
Oh, shouldn't be. No, it won't be. Because it'll be
above.
in the same,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
None of the existing railings are the code height either, so we'll have to deal with that.
They don't have to be, just throwing that out there.
Okay.
They don't have to be, you don't have to raise them, you know that, right?
Yeah, I just wondered about if we're adding a new porch upstairs, what do we do with that?
That you would.
Yeah, so that's gonna look a little funny, proportionally with the railings downstairs. We'll deal with that.
Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC is pleased to see rehabilitation efforts proposed through this project to address deferred maintenance issues, but encourage careful assessment of the condition of historic elements like windows, columns, and roofing material, pursuing repair rather than replacement to the greatest extent possible. Second, all Sanborn maps provided show that this property has historically had a one-story porch at the rear. While it appears that there have been alterations to this portion of the house, the one-story porch is important to retain as part of this historic form and a character-defining feature of this property. And we are not supportive of the proposal to add first fill, infill, and a second-story addition. Thank you.
April Wood, Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF has reviewed the application for conceptual approval for exterior alterations and addition to 158 Spring Street, and we thank the applicant for their time meeting with us at the site a few weeks ago. Overall, we think this is a wonderful historic property, and we are pleased to see that the house will be rehabilitated. We have some specific comments regarding the project. On the front, we have no objection to the fence changes to the retaining wall or removal of the side stair. These are positive changes that will enhance the character of the property. We are concerned about the notes on the drawings for the windows, that they're too vague, and inventory should be conducted showing which windows are proposed to be replaced in kind or repaired. At the second floor front porch, it is unclear to us from the application whether the existing French doors are original. We suggest more study and documentation of these features before approving alteration to the windows. Front columns. It is likely that some of these columns are original and can be repaired. It is better to repair where possible, and we suggest a more careful evaluation of the individual columns before approval of wholesale replacement. The front balustrade, we again believe that the note on the drawings is not specific enough. There are two styles of turned balusters on the front porch. It appears that the second floor balusters are original. The first floor balusters are different but also historic. It is unclear from the application if both baluster styles on the front are being retained. We have no objection to keeping two baluster styles, especially if the history of the balusters is unclear. With the rear, we agree that there's more salvage material on this elevation, and it appears to us that the one-story porch form is original and therefore important to retain. We urge the applicant to retain the historic form of the rear porch, especially where it is visible from the public right-of-way. We respectfully recommend deferral of this application so that the historic fabric can be carefully assessed and retained as much as possible. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, if you'll give us these staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff just had a couple observations. One is that we appreciate the reorganization of the fenestration at the rear to clear that up. And that the addition of the porch divides it into 4 small porches, but the rear alterations are only minimally visible and only from across town. Staff recommendation is for conceptual approval with a final review by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Wallace, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city comment?
I do. I forgot to mention that on the Sanborn maps, it shows that 160 Spring Street, our sister property, did have a one-story porch in the rear that was added to with a second story. So we're asking for the same approval, the same ability to do that.
Okay. Public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Just real quick, I wanted to ask Frankie, so when you say minimally visible, is it in our purview or not in our purview?
It is in our purview because there is visibility, but the only line of sight we could find is from the crosstown, which is pretty far away.
I looked at it on the door and it looks like it's only visible from the crosstown. You think it would?
I think you can see the west end of the back porch from Spring. Yeah. But really, I think this is a positive proposal. Honestly, my only hesitation is about those French doors. I suspect they are original, or at least very historic, and I don't know that they would have a real detrimental effect on the program if they were maintained, but I think the proposed plan is very elegant and I am not concerned about adding a second porch level at the rear.
I have the same comments. I think this is really positive but if those French doors on the second floor front porch are original, I would not be in favor of demolishing those.
I think if they're original, they haven't been replaced. It would probably be best to keep them at. I don't have any objection to the general plan here, including the understanding. Second floor porch on the rear, I don't think it's very visible. I would like to see more documentation on more specific documentation on what's being replaced, what's being repaired. I think it's pretty vague on the drawings right now, and I'm assuming it calls out for a standing seam roof. So I'm assuming that's going to be a gable with a hand folded ridge. I think the drawings need a little more specificity.
Yeah, I think the inventory of material, I think the applicant did state that there was as much retention of historic material as possible and just essentially an inventory of items like the windows or maybe documentation of which balustrade profile seems to be the oldest, that the one that you're going to want to run with and items like that. I think just in light of the fact that there is a sister house that had a second porch added to it and the fact that it is minimally visible, I think I can get my head around on the second level porch on the back as well. And just a minor point, I kind of make this sometimes, I'm sure you already know this, Skip. I just on the lock rail of the shutters, I like to see it right below the check rail on the windows. You can actually lock them. But anyway, that's just a minor point.
You to draw it that way.
Yeah.
No, we make it all.
Yeah,
I better call my shutter guy, having some shutters made.
you better make sure it's below the lock, the lock rail.
I don't
Below
build
the
them.
check rail.
Well, I mean, it's important if you want to lock them. I will make a motion for conceptual approval. With board conditions to preserve French doors at second floor piazza. Assuming they're historic. And to provide a window inventory prior to replacement. And to provide justification of column and railing choices.
What was that first one?
First one,
Just provide justification of.
column and railing choices.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. What about?
Oh, yes.
Final review? Yeah. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with some board conditions. First, preserve the French doors at the second floor piazza if historic. Second, to provide a window inventory prior to replacement. And 3, to provide justification of the column and railing choices and final review by staff. Do I have a second to Julia's motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Fillmore. I'll put the motion to a vote. Bill Turner,
Yay in favor.
Bill Huey,
Yeah.
Julia,
Okay.
Fillmore.
Yeah, in favor.
The chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7 has been deferred by the applicant. That was 213 Ashley Avenue. Agenda item 8, 78 East Bay Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
Thank you.
I was
Okay, 78 East Bay Street is in Charlestown. It is a category 2 circa 1800 in the Old Historic District. Requesting conceptual approval to replace windows and doors at rear. This is the property's location on East Bay Street. Existing site photos. Some context of East Bay Street. The architectural inventory from 1973. And some sandboard maps. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
I'm Will McKeechee with Sebastian von Marshall Architect. So, see, I'll just scroll through. These are the sandboard maps again. The aerial views, property. Some more, just photos of the property and so all we're doing is, requesting to replace the windows and doors in the center unit, because it's a 3-unit building on the rear of the building, which is actually not a part of the original structure. It shows up on, it was a porch addition that shows up between the 1902 and 1944 Sanborn maps. And on the bottom 3 photo there, you can see what is there right now. And so windows on either side and a door in the center, pretty bad. Like horizontal lights that just are not in keeping with the historical context. So we're proposing to replace that and put what we're proposing, put something in that's much more historically sensitive. And this is a unit right to the north, and that's kind of more of what we're going for, with more vertical lights. That fits in with the character of the rest of the building and the neighborhood better. It's just the floor plans and so on, that the existing on the left, actually, and I think that's the demo on the right. And you can see here our proposed, and the exterior wall there, the east facing wall, is on the right. So again, windows on either side and a door in the center that will become 2 doors and 1 window. And here's a existing elevation on the left and the proposed elevation on the right. And so these are on the left, it's simulated divided light, and we're also proposing simulated divided light. And we'll also be bringing in, so on the windows, we'll be bringing in the exterior, or the sides, bringing in the sides just a little bit and filling that in. Ideally with salvage brick that we get from under that left window. And then if that's not enough brick, getting some handmade brick to match existing. I think that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
So those are, those screen doors that we're seeing on the drawing there, and then there's other doors behind those, correct?
Yes.
Should we be looking maybe at this interior elevation to see what those doors look like
I can
behind
put
the
that
screens?
Yeah.
Next.
It's
Right there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question that's not terribly relevant, but do you think they might ever want to improve their fenestration on the 2nd floor?
I don't know. I think that potentially they're I wasn't a party to the conversation with the client. Sebastian, I think, has mentioned that maybe down the road they might do something on the 2nd floor, but.
Thank you.
Weren't these windows, some of the windows on the building fairly recently replaced? Am I thinking wrong?
So
those on the left were, we think they were done in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
They look
I
fairly-
have some recollection of. No. There's a window replacement on this building. Well,
Do y'all have any records?
I don't remember finding any.
I seem to remember.
But the windows in the historic core are all historically appropriate.
Yeah,
With
these
single
are-
glazed.
So I'm just wondering. The age of these windows you're proposing to replace, you think they're those early 2000 vintage?
Yeah, I mean, they're Pella
Okay,
windows.
okay, yeah.
That's our guess. I think that's when the previous owners,
Are they SDLs or are they?
they are SDLs.
They are
Yeah.
SDLs.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean, it's really barely visible, you know, from Vandross Wharf. I mean, this time of year with the foliage in, I'm not even sure it is.
We can't see foliage.
Cool.
Any other questions? Thank you. Is there anyone speaking to the public?
Laurel Bay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciates the applicant reaching out to us, and we agree that there's room for improvement over the existing non-historic windows and doors. However, true divided light is generally the preferred approach for historic districts, especially where they're highly visible. So we would encourage consideration of alternative replacement options as this proposal moves forward. Thank you.
Frank, you could give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
We just had an observation that simulated divided light was inappropriate at this location and for the age of structure. And that our condition was that the window should be wood true divided light. And that is primarily because I couldn't find the approval for the simulated divided lights. So if you guys remember approving them different.
I wasn't involved, I just, for some
That's 20
reason,
years ago.
have some recollection. Maybe as a window manufacturer, they kept touting, hey, we replaced these windows down here. I'm just-
And the applicant is saying that number 80 East Bay had its windows, those are not historic windows at the back, correct?
No, those are not historic windows. I don't know if those are simulated or true.
Don't know.
Yeah, I know that the ones that are currently in 78 are
Right.
simulated.
And ugly.
Yeah.
Did you read your recommendation?
Oh, it was a conceptual approval of staff condition and final review by staff.
Thank you. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment?
Sure, if I go back up there, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we appreciate the comments, about true divided lights. I think that, yeah, we felt since this part of the building is actually not part of the original building. And because I would definitely not say it's highly visible. I would say it's barely visible from, or barely visible in the public's view. And also trying to differentiate old from new, we felt SDL was more appropriate and not trying to imitate something that's old. So that's all.
Thank you. All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I agree with the applicant. To me, there's not really any question, given the fact that what is existing is already simulated divided light, not historic. And the fact that none of the part of the building is original. And they're nice looking units that they've proposed. That I think will be perfectly appropriate for that location.
I agree, it's not original, but it is from the 19, I mean, it is historic. So, yes, I'm in agreement with staff as to the true divided light.
So I wonder about complications with openings. I mean, I don't, if that facade is new, I mean, if it's modern, it's not original. and changing the opening size probably isn't necessarily accurate.
If there's a question asked,
Yeah,
but
I'll ask a question. I'll ask a question. The opening sizes in the fenestration, do you know what period that's from? In the evolution of this back section?
And forgive me for not saying this, I failed to mention this. In the photos, and I can maybe back up and show you can see that the brick has already been filled in under the existing photos. And so I believe that, and it wasn't done very well.
looking like down here.
On A00
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it at the bottom.
Underneath one.
But I was thinking of more of the width.
And on the, well,
It's hard to see. Photographs based on that.
is it okay to flip this?
Oh, go ahead.
So,
While we're waiting, I'll just ask, you wanna narrow the openings for proportional reasons? Is that your only reason for doing that?
no, we're actually doing that because on the interior,
Something planned?
yeah, so right now, the cabinets on both sides do not meet the wall. They stop short of the wall because of the openings. And it just, one, it doesn't look very good with interior elevations. And two, we want to keep, like, we want to, since we're creating, we're removing lower cabinets on the south end of the east wall. So we want to keep in as much storage as possible and maybe create a little more. So we're proposing to push the cabinets all the way to the end and meet the wall. And in order to do that, we need to bring in those windows a little bit. And they have been filled in there previously. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I kind of feel like I'm trying to make a decision in a vacuum in a way. I wish I had more information on what to flanking, that's what's going on there. They've got steel lintels. I think.
I don't know. I'm fine with them. Installation and at that location.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, they have a jack arch. They got two of those underneath, I think.
Yeah.
So they're probably fairly recent. Trying to figure it out. It's making that look like it's really tricky. Don't really, I mean, they're STLs now. I don't have a lot of heartache about replacing not very attractive STL windows with more attractive STL windows. My only concern is making sure that if they're changing the size of the zone, it's done well. 'Cause
Yeah, I guess that's a fair question, and considering resizing your openings, you're gonna keep the resizing within masonry coursing. So that we're gonna see, whole brick, are you adding a whole brick width on each side, so that it's too thin and work where it's supposed to work, and then you'd be modifying the jack arches as well, right?
I honestly feel like, I don't know the answer to that Sebastian probably knows the answer to that question better than me. I've been with him for a couple months. I can confidently say though that he wants to make it look right and do it well. And when we were going with the elevations, bringing in the door, the amount we had to bring it in, I mean, the plan is to bring it in so it's a full brick, not cutting a brick in half.
Yeah, you can really see it right here. This is 2 bricks.
So that's the neighboring. That's not,
Oh.
sorry, I was trying to show, somebody was talking about trying to see what was going on next door.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
This is,
Well, now I see the piazza.
this is,
I guess go one back, go
Let's go one
There you
back
can
and.
see it there. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
well,
Oh,
we
yeah,
can see it
there.
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 Yeah,
There, that.
yeah, it's similar there.
Oh,
But
It's
zooming-
perfect.
I'm zooming in on this.
you can see
Monitoring.
the discoloration
Yeah. Right.
between,
Right.
like where it's been filled in here. And then the jack arches are older brick than, like, well, I guess you can see it, you can really see it down here. Maybe it hasn't been filled in there.
Yeah, I guess that, I kind of zoomed in on the back here. In the right place, I think I am.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
And looks like there's basically a brick and a half is the width of the wall segment between the existing windows. And I guess my question was, when you're wanting to narrow those down, are you gonna keep this within masonry coursing, right?
That's
It might
the hope.
become 2 bricks, it might become 2.5, it might become 3 bricks. Or whatever it is, and then you're proposing to also then modify the jack arches.
So the door, the door is only gonna get. The brick may not have to change on the door, the brick opening. The jamb may just move in a couple inches.
Okay, so you're thinking of thickening the.
It's drawn as if it was all, if the opening were getting narrower, the
Yeah.
masonry opening.
But on the windows, there likely will have to be brick built in.
Yes, and that's what, that was kind of getting around to the question is. Build into the. Oh, wait a minute, say that again.
So I don't believe, like, on the door. I don't know that we're gonna have to fill in brick there,
Oh.
because the door is only gonna be a couple inches smaller than what's there. So the trim will just be a bit thicker.
Okay.
On the windows, the brick, the change in size is enough that it will require filling in the brick.
That's that structure's solid masonry.
Yes.
I guess because, I'm sorry, I'm looking at your drawing and the opening widths obviously are narrower. And then the jack arches drawn are coordinated to those new opening widths. So I was just mainly wanting to make sure that you were trying to keep everything within coursing,
Yes.
right? But what you're basically doing is you're rebuilding pretty much the whole wall in between the far corner of that window, the far edge of that window, and the far edge of this door over here. And you're rebuilding everything in between in order to accommodate that. Or I'm asking, is that And I see we're in conceptual here, so it might be that we might need maybe Sebastian to come in here.
Yeah.
More specifically, no slide on you, you've done a very good job in presentation, but.
I think he had, he's out of the country, otherwise he
Yeah.
would be there.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I would just say that kind of want to know the extent of, because it's not just simply a replacement of windows, it's actually a modification of pretty much the whole back wall. And what that extent is and what it's proposed to be. And I believe, but I can't say, but I hope that everything is staying within coursing. It's simply just going to be modified within coursing and rebuilt and structured. So, right now, I would say, you've asked for conceptual. So, I guess my thought would be kind of a running poll of what we think about replacing these window units. But I think we would definitely need to have maybe a more thorough explanation of the reconstruction of the wall. When you actually present it. So I don't know if it's a deferral, but then we would be able to give you some sort of a direction of thoughts of replacement, or do we
I was
go?
thinking about a motion for conceptual approval of the replacement with simulated divided light units as indicated, and we could do a deferral of
Sizes.
modification of the masonry openings.
Yeah.
For more clarification. on that.
Right, that's kind of the idea, because it's not just they're replacing windows, it's rebuilding.
Yeah.
A lot of the back wall.
And
we-
maybe they could just increase the jam width and
It could be.
do what they
It's
want
just
to
a
do.
question How much, right? We don't want to be like
Right,
that,
right.
right?
Julia, did you just make a motion for conceptual approval of the simulated true divided light windows? Simulated, yeah. I don't know what. As indicated, and deferral of modification of masonry openings.
Yes.
Do you have a second to Julia's motion?
Second.
Bill, put the motion to the vote. Bill Turner,
Yay in favor.
Bill Moore,
And
Julia,
In favor.
Bill Huey.
Yeah.
The chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 9.5, Council Street. Frank, if you'll give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
You're right.
it's not gonna work.
5 Council Street is in Charleston. It is not surveyed circa 1900 in the Old Historic District, requiring conceptual approval to restore a portion of previously enclosed piazza. This is the property's location on Council Street. Some existing site photos. Context of Council Street. And sandborn map showing the history of the property. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Yes, hello, my name is Tyler Smith. We're working with the owners, the Smiths, who had this property since 1998. They bought it as a young married couple. Brought a bride in from Fort Worth and bought this house. It had 6 apartments in it when they bought it. It was a mess, and it remains a bit of a mess. But since then, they've cobbled the entire house together slowly over time. They added a child and lost an apartment and just kept on sort of taking it over as they went. And now 3 kids in college, one who's maybe about to go off to boarding school, and they are ready to restore a little bit of their piazza back, which is a joy. They have kind of a wretched first floor storage room right now that denies light into their dining room. And they would like to restore, we would like to restore that part. And go over to the first floor plan. Currently, it's all infilled, as you could see from the exterior photos. their dining room, the original center room here is still intact. The pocket door is still intact. And we would like to restore this portion of piazza, including two pairs of French doors at each end, one leading into the front corner, former piazza, currently an office, and they badly want to maintain that. They use it as a home office, and that's a part that we're not going to restore. And then another door leading into the back room. One interior door to replace that with a pair of glass French doors that we believe would have been there before, along with the transom. There's an existing interior window, and we'd like to add one window that we believe may or may not have been there, but it's at the end of a bar there at the upper left-hand corner of the piazza there. No other exterior changes. This is a demo plan to show the parts that would be removed. There's kind of a mess of plumbing in the ceiling, 2 bathrooms upstairs, and we're going to reroute all of that stuff to try to make all of this work. First, the front elevation really does not change, except we will replace a wooden handrail that projects out from the side stair with a new iron handrail. Side view, you can see their everyday side door, which they use every day, will be removed. The piazza will take its place, and we think that the column bays will work well with the proportions of the piazza that we have there. Rear elevation does not change. North side elevation, no changes. That's all I have.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Our preservation groups have left, so Frankie, if you'll give us any staff comments and recommendations.
Okay, and I will admit we struggled with this one a bit. Our observation is the proposal doesn't extend the entire length of the original piazza, and it contradicts typical development patterns by creating a recessed open porch below infill. And it does not really read as a piazza does, that because of that. Our condition would be extending it along the entire length, though I do understand what they're saying about why they can't do that. Right now, we're recommending denial.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Smith, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the city staff comments and recommendations?
I certainly understand that in an ideal world, we would have the piazzas extend the length of it. Some earlier studies that we've done with this did have the front corner as a piazza. However, with the usage that they have of the house, and their need for an office and their desire for an office in the location where it currently exists, that was something that they were unwilling to do at this time. So we're sort of hopeful that this little bit will lead to more further changes in the house down the line. And but we're happy to be able to give some piazza now where the piazza did exist before and where currently they have none. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and the vote.
I can't fault anybody for wanting to put up even a piece of a piazza. So I
Right.
have no problem with this.
Take half a loaf.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it's kind of like you can't judge it because it's gonna look like a piazza that got infilled. Because it isn't infilled, and now it's gonna become the piazza. It's kind of like looking at the negative of a photograph or something. So I mean, yeah, you're reclaiming, and I hope what Tyler is saying comes to fruition, that maybe later on there'll be more to see.
And along those lines, it would be nice if you did a study, you know, just so you're comfortable with where you're putting your columns now, in case our dreams come true in the future, you know? But yeah.
I'm sort of on board with that. I think it's really weird, but it's still a little bit of porch.
A little bit better.
It's-
I like Julia's recommendation. That's right on.
Yeah,
I like
definitely.
It looks like you're real close to having 5 equal days, but just
Maybe check. Elmore, were you going to make a motion?
No, I hadn't. But I mean, I'm fine with that. I would, make a motion, for conceptual approval with final review by staff.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with final review by staff. Do I have a second to Fillmore's motion?
Second.
Thank you. The motion to vote. Bill Huey,
Yeah, in favor.
Julia,
In favor.
Fillmore,
Yeah, in fact.
Bill Turner.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passed unanimously. Thank you. Julia, I'm gonna need you to come back for the motion to adjourn. Okay, agenda item 10, 94 Trad Street. Frankie, if you give us an introduction, overview of the project, please.
I have to wait till Julia leaves. I said, do I have to wait till Julia leaves? 94 Trad Street is in Charleston. It is a category 2. Circa 1760 in the old historic district. Requesting conceptual approval for fenestration modification and removal of storage shed. This is the property's location on Trad Street. Listing site photos. A context from Trad. And from King. And a survey card from 1973. He also had Sanborn maps. Turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marilyn here with Julia Martin next to tonight on behalf of the owners of 94 Trad Street. This is a really interesting house at the northwest corner of King and Trad, the oldest part of which dates to 1760. The property includes essentially 3 parts: the 3-story mass there at the corner, a 2-story appendage that to the north, and then this non-historic 1-story garage that faces Trad Street. Our proposal is pretty straightforward. We're requesting to remove a non-historic CMU storage closet, if you will, on the side of the house and make a few alterations to fenestration in areas that have been repeatedly modified and renovated since the 1970s. You can see in this aerial view down here at the bottom is the CMU storage shed that sort of serves as a pedestal for the HVAC condensers for everybody to see. So we would like to remove that from the side of the building. This is a close-up view of that, the inside view. And then here is the, I guess what you call the rear, the east elevation of the 2-story appendage, where there's sort of that hodgepodge of fenestration that we would like to clean up. And then we'll also be focusing on this, what's called a hyphen on King, where there is a secondary entry. So just in studying the Sanborn maps and looking at historic photographs, this building has clearly been modified significantly over the years for the various uses that have taken place. The ground floor has largely been occupied by businesses with some residential. On the upper floor, you can sort of see here the drugstore in this photo from the 1960s. But basically, it was kind of in a state of disrepair until the 70s when it was finally sort of renovated and returned or converted rather to single family use. And what we can see from this photograph, or these photographs rather, is that in 1972, that whole 2-story appendage on the west side was kind of coplanar with the main mass, whereas now there's the hyphen that steps back in. And then back here where we're proposing some changes, there was this large addition that has thankfully since been removed, but in doing research at Historic Charleston Foundation, there's records that that whole area was kind of completely reconstructed around the 1980s. So looking at the site here, the only changes that we're making to the footprint are, again, eliminating the storage closet. That will allow us to relocate the HVAC units at grade and screen them from view. And then here at this little secondary entry courtyard that somewhat functions as a hyphen, we would like to eliminate the fencing there and just sort of clean up that whole area. So here is our existing and proposed first floor plan. At the first floor, we're opening up and reconsidering their kitchen, and it's really important to them that they have more of a connection to their garden and bring a little bit more light into the space. So to that end, we're introducing new steel doors and windows in the upper portion here. And then down here at the entry off of King Street, and there's multiple entries on this house, one here, one here, one here, and then there was one on the back. Currently, we'll walk in this way, and this door just goes to a little air handler closet. We would like to close that in and have the door just centrally located right into the kitchen. The second floor, there's some reconsideration of how their bath and closet lays out, and we're just asking to shift this one window over. Nothing at the attic level. That's the exterior. So here is our west elevation where you can see the changes here. Just having a centrally located door, being careful not to sort of compete with the main entry. And then we'd like to enlarge this window to match the rest that you see there. We're also recommending that the owners correct the dormers, which at some point were completely covered and clad in asphalt shingle in a really awkward way. Here's the Trad Street elevation. The only change there again is the removal of this CMU shed. And then here is our east elevation where you can see at the back the new steel fenestration and then the shifting of that one window in the upper right. No real changes in this view other than the storage shed going away. Then I'll just end with our existing and proposed views there at the entry on King Street. That is all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for the applicant?
The area that the steel doors are going in, is that the area you're talking about was modified in the 80s?
Anything else? All right. There's any public comment? Frankie, if you'll give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
We just had the observations that we were not opposed to the front wall and door alterations or the removal of the rear shed. And the rear fenestration changes are minimally visible from Trad and clarify a previously altered portion of the structure. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with a final review by staff.
Thank you. Erin, did you want to respond to or clarify anything? All right, we are in board discussion and a vote.
I don't really have any issues. I think in the hyphen area, I think what's being proposed really cleans that up a lot. Then I think the steel windows and doors are really cool. And since they're going into an area of the building that was supposedly heavily modified in the 80s, I don't see an issue with that either.
Yeah, I was wondering, and it makes sense that it was modified because seeing that roof line and then seeing the placement of the steel unit sort of right there where you would imagine a wall came down. But if you look at the plan of what's existing, that all had been removed anyway. So, yeah, I think it actually obviously cleans up a lot of things. And I don't, yeah, it fixes those dormers too. Thank you. So, yeah, it's cleaning up a lot of messy stuff. So I definitely have no issue with it at all.
Motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion for conceptual approval with final review by staff.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval with final review by staff. We have a second to Bill's motion. Thank you, Bill.
I'll second it.
I'll put the motion to a vote. Bill Kernan,
Yay in favor.
Bill Huey,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill Moore.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes. Yeah, all in favor? Opposed? Wonderful.